Okie doke. We've already got 18 people on. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, Catherine.
Awesome. Okay, shall we get going? Are you ready to go, Neelam?
I'm ready to go. Yeah, I'm ready and waiting.
Okay. All right. Okay, everybody. I will be recording the session as always, so please be mindful if you want to keep your cameras off. Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the June edition of our Inclusion and Wellbeing Forum. Today we welcome the fabulous Neelam Bhatti, who is a leading voice in education and inclusion here in the UAE. And today we're going to look at some action research that she's completed over the past year. As always, we would ask that all mics will be muted to ensure that the speaker can be heard. If you have a question, you can write it in the chat box and we'll monitor the chat and highlight any questions and invite you to speak at the end of the session. Please listen to the presentation first and we can add a comment to the chat if you wish to speak. We like to keep focused on students in practice. We don't discuss individual conditions of schools or cases. Industry experts are welcome to listen and advise, but please do not promote any companies or offerings, as this is all free forum. We'll record the session to ensure that all questions can be addressed and key points are raised. We will not discuss any individual challenges, or rather overarching challenges can be addressed. We are in the similar roles to you guys. We make suggestions and we give advice, but always your own school requirements take precedence over anything we suggest. As always, the recordings will be posted on our YouTube channel, and I'll post the links in the chat there. So without further ado, I will hand over to the wonderful Neelam.
Oh, thank you so much for that warm welcome on a Monday afternoon. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everybody. So I'll be looking at some research that I carried out, like Catherine has said, over the last 8 months, and action research and how we've developed that at our school in working with the University of Birmingham and other professional learning communities that we've established. So I'm Neelam, whole school head of inclusion at Elephant School in Dubai, Al Salam Community School. My research with another colleague, we both looked at balancing brilliance and support, so meeting the needs of quite exceptional students and gifted. So our study, we started off in FS and I looked at sort of primary and secondary as well. So I'll talk to you a little bit about each phase of the school, because I know we have some colleagues here from different parts of the school, and just to look at how our research was carried out. Now, as Catherine said, I'm not a specialist, but I do take pride in inclusive practice. Please feel free to add any comments to the chat box, and I look forward to answering your questions at the end. So today's session, we will look at defining, or what we might as a group think of defining what giftedness is, some frameworks and some literature reviews that we conducted. When I say we, myself and another colleague, we looked at a case study of 2 twin boys in FS. So we started off there and we looked at how twice exceptional students are supported right from the sort of base of the school going upwards. Some common myths that we looked at. I'll talk a little bit about action research and why that's important for you as practitioners in your communities and your schools, and how that impacts not only us as researchers, but also learners and the school community as a whole. So what does gifted and talented mean? When I looked at research, we looked at some researchers, Robert and Burgess, and we looked at what that definition might mean. It's still quite unclear, actually. You know, we look at CAP4s and we look at map data and how we distinguish high ability or talented or gifted students. But certainly at our school, we look at CAP4 and we look at the high ability of the students achieving in those batteries. We look at above grade level, students who are making more progress or attainment levels above their age-related. Different translations and understandings. My understanding could be different to what yours is, but hopefully it can be sort of universal as well. Students with gifts and talents belong to a diverse cultural or community, and still this is developing. So we are okay with giftedness, but with talent, are we there yet? So we wanted to look and tap into that kind of research. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So with any type of research, we looked at conceptual frameworks and what literature is out there. So just to share with you there's something that we looked at in terms of how our school community would work, where we would go into looking at research, which students benefit more from having that intervention and the advanced learner plans. So we put frameworks according to the needs of the students and how we wanted to develop our research at the school. We looked at differentiated models as well, so looking at how we could establish the gifted child, but also the talented students at the school. So we looked at a model here, Gagner's differentiated model of giftedness and talent, because we feel that talent is important. We look more at attainment and progress, but we do take parental references and teacher references as well. And we do distinguish those students on our inclusion register for giftedness as well. So the reality of gifted, why we chose this. My colleague is looking and she's studying for a gifted program in the US, and she wanted to look more at her students in FS. So it's live data that we were collecting and case studies as well. But when we looked overall, we looked at this model, Carthite's model of 2020 to see. And if you can see round the circle, you can see lots of students gave feedback that they were just bored. There was boredom going on in the classrooms and very little on them achieving or thriving within their learning environments. So this is something that we wanted to look at our school to see how we can support or best support our learners within the classroom. So I'll talk to you today a little bit more about the strategies that we implemented. So twice exceptional, just some things on there as well. They can be high ability in one or two particular domains, but they also have a special need as well. They might have ADHD, ASD. Our students in the FS, for example, have they can't regulate their emotions, so social emotional needs as well. So we looked at that to see how we can stretch the child, but also support the child's needs in the classroom, and look to see how we could support that. So some of the characteristics, we looked at 3 different paradigms. We looked at the gifted child paradigm and sort of the whole uniqueness of the child. We looked at the actual talent of the child as well, and how we develop the child further. So we looked at curriculum compacting as one of the strategies, where we look at the child's needs and then advance them further by developing the curriculum to a level that they can achieve and excel in. And some of the common myths we also looked at. So when we're looking at working with teachers in the school, they also have these common myths as well, to see if children were gifted, they can go on, they can thrive on their own. Some do. But children with gifted might have straight A's. That's not always true. So we look at the progress in attainment and track the progress in attainment as well. And other things like gifted students are always happy and well adjusted. We found that that's not true as well, because we have to support the needs, whether they're young children or young students, but also in older environments in the secondary school. We had to work with counsellors as well to ensure that our students are gifted and talented were supported in the classroom. So when we go in for the learning observations, where are they seated, for example? That's really important. How are they with other students, and interaction with other students, and their social and emotional needs were really taken into account in this research. 5 factors here that contributed. Like I said, we looked at the psychological safety and environment and how the student thrives in the environment. We looked at how the tolerance level of are they able to cope up with their work. We allow students time without rushing them. Teachers or sometimes students in group work, when they're in group work, feel that students are gifted and talented can actually excel in learning, but sometimes that's not the case. They might need more processing time, and they might need more time to conduct their research on their own, for example. We also looked at positive relationships, how the students are with their peers, how they are at home, and how they are with teachers. So we got feedback from the students and parents and teachers using a feedback form and scales to see how they are in terms of creating great relationships. And strength-based talent as well. We looked at what strengths the students had and sort of implemented things. So for our gifted students, we look at different intervention programs, one of them being Innovation Week, for example. They can do a self-paced project, and they have a showcase at the end of the week. Parents and teachers are able to come, and they thrive on that, and they were able to articulate AI, for example, or using AI in healthcare, some learning environments that they developed, and they were able to present and articulate their projects really well. I'll just move on to the next one. So as I mentioned, how we identify gifted students, we look at the CAT4 data, and we look at the 4 batteries in that, and then see who is scoring above 1 to 5 in the batteries or the domains, and then they get put onto our gifted register at our school. But we begin early. We look at students in FS, although they're not tested in such a way, we do look at how they progress in terms of classroom environment. Are they meeting the needs? Are they working or excelling above age related? And that's what I'll talk about in just a second. So action research, how did that come about? Last year, myself and my colleague presented or had an opportunity to put our names down for action research with the University of Birmingham. And we looked at Emirati students last year developing the literacy. This year, we wanted to do gifted and talented because it's one of our school improvement priorities, and we took it further. So this year, we presented 2-3 weeks ago at the University of Birmingham, and I had the pleasure of leading 17 teachers at the school who wanted to take part in action research. So action research is something that we do as practitioners live in our classrooms. It's not beyond, it's no extra work. So if you're considering to do this, hopefully after this, I'll be able to answer some questions about the research as well and how you might want to get involved. These are just some pictures about our showcase. We did a 7-month project. So we looked at research, and our research, which gifted students, was 7 months long. And then we presented at school level. So we had some guest speakers there. And in the top right picture, you can see the teachers who participated, whether they're a single participant or participated at a group level, and different ranges of studies from behaviour to well-being, creating well-being gardens, to a Year 3 study was about using AI and chat boxes in their classrooms. So it ranged from a different continuum of what teachers wanted to explore. But the great thing about it, teachers benefited from using their own students in the classroom to carry out their research question and in turn their action research. Action research is ongoing, so by no means our research is completed, we just presented, but we will be continuing this on into the next academic year as well. And that was 2 weeks ago. We presented at the University of Birmingham. So these are some of our star teachers that went along, and we were all certified in what we did in terms of presenting. So action research is something that we focus on, and there's a problem. We look, okay, what's going on in our classrooms that we might want to, sort of study further. And then we look for the problem or the solution of that. And we look at being reflective practitioners, and most importantly, evidence informed. All of our research has to be evidence informed. Lots of reading, bringing in things, triangulation, looking at data and putting everything together. That's part of the process of action research. So the stone in the shoe, as a professor at university calls it, Professor Phil Anderson, who worked with us in collaboration of working through different types of sessions that we led on. And then for our sample, we looked at foundation stage students, and we identified them as gifted. So we looked at from age 4. I myself looked at secondary, so from year 7 to 9, key stage 3. I looked at 2 groups of students and tracked their progress from September last year up to end of term 2, which has just finished before spring break. Qualitative data, so we looked at children's work in FS, how the children were progressing, what they were producing, how they were producing it. We did some observations. We looked at a curriculum compactor, so advancing the curriculum for them. For example, in FS, the 2 students we were working with, both twins, we looked at developing the curriculum at year 1 level. So they're finishing FS2 now, but already they've possibly already gone through quite a lot of the curriculum in year 1. So we were matching up the curriculum and adapting it further for them. We had some rubrics for secondary students and observations that we did there. I myself, I am part of the academic team at schools. I look at inclusion right through school. And when I go into the classrooms to observe, I also took the observation data, linking it to the KHDA framework, PS2 and PS5, when we go in to look at how challenge is supported in the classroom and meeting the needs. And then, of course, we had advanced learner plans. So for our gifted students, we have advanced learner plans, and the teachers are the sole sort of authors of that plan, but students are involved and parents are involved. So when I say involved, they are able to give a target for the subject. The students also give a target, and then the parents are able to put a target on the plan. The plans are reviewed each term. After each term, the targets are changed according to how the student has progressed. In terms of quantitative data, we looked at tracking internal data, so internal formative assessments and summative assessments, and also external data. So our school uses NGRT as a reading tool. We looked at that data as well to track the progress and attainment. We looked at teacher observation data and student questionnaires. It was really important to get that feedback or that student voice from the students to then make impact on how they want to learn, especially in the secondary sector of the school. So our interventions and what strategies we put in place. So foundation stage, it's obviously a little bit different, but differentiation, acceleration, and then we looked at the national curriculum standards and modified those. And in secondary, curriculum compacting involved differentiation, challenge, and how we accelerated the students further. So curriculum compacting is a strategy to look to see what level the student is at and how we can modify and adapt. And it's usually just stretching the students further as well. And I looked at math and science and English to track the progress and attainment data for our students in secondary. Okay, some of the literature there, we looked at literature that identified teachers can address the needs of the students in a regular classroom. They don't really need to have a different provision or have more intervention. Compacting develops self-esteem. So when the student is feeling confident enough, they're not getting bored, they're having that challenge in the classroom. And that really showed in positive outcomes for students in terms of academics and also social and emotional learning as well. Some other research here identified the use of curriculum compacting for enrichment. So in China, they looked at that. For our enrichment, we did an innovation week, a leadership week, and also an AI week. So we looked at lots of things around AI, which was 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's what the curriculum compactor looked like. We looked at the areas of strength. We looked at how we can differentiate and how, you know, the activities to go with that. So this is the compactor that we used for our students. Okay, we looked at these 8 steps to compacting, so identifying the objects, how the objectives, how the students are coping up with their learning in class, and what sort of things we need to do. Keeping records is really important. I can't show you here, but we had like journals of the students. So they had a learning journal, and we put all the work in the learning journal and track the progress that way, which was really nice to see some of the works that went through. We put all the literature in there. We put different types of activities. And when we presented face-to-face, we were able to share that with other colleagues as well. The main findings you can see here, this is teacher feedback now in the foundation stage. So when they looked at this child, just the ones highlighted in yellow, you can already see that the student mastered the early years foundation stage targets. So then the teacher thought, right, what next? So like I said, they looked at year 1 objectives, and the student was able to do that with ease. Now the students coming up to the end of FS, we're already thinking about the transition process. So by that, I'm working with the colleagues in year 1 to match up the teacher in year 1 with these 2 students, looking at how we can advance them further. If they've already mastered the year 1 objectives, what's next for them? Then we go beyond that. So a lot of this work is still taking place, but the focus really is on self-regulation. So the students need that support. We're regulating their emotion throughout their learning. Okay, just giving you an example here of some of the learning, if you can see on there, but things like writing composition, what the teacher had put in place, they've documented it, they've mastered it, and then an alternative activity. Usually this activity was around sort of form time when the children were coming in the morning. They were able to have their own activity, their own space, they knew where to go, and then they were solving maths equations, just with sort of manipulatives and carrying on with their task, and then the teacher tracked the progress throughout the 8 months. In secondary, a little bit different. We had independent study and project-based learning. So our gifted students really wanted to do independent or peer level projects, and they really enjoyed that. We looked at tier task and problem solving and how we could embed choice in their learning. They were given that choice and autonomy to choose activities. We had enrichment themes, activities, as mentioned, such as Entrepreneur Week, innovation, and this is all project-based and task-based. We've had a leadership and then a community-based project as well. So a lot of our gifted students like to be self-directed. And as I mentioned, there's an advanced learner plan that we put in place, and we track the progress through there. In terms of secondary, I looked at summative assessments through each term and tracking the progress. We track our students at 5 data points throughout the year. So October, January, which is our term 1 end, term 2, and that's two sets of data that we collect there. And then right now, our term 3. As said before, NGRT data. So we track the NGRT data A, B, and C and look for the comparisons and how they've progressed. As mentioned, we have learner portfolios, questionnaires, and feedback is really important. And then we have the subject deep dive. So I myself go in with other colleagues and we look at subject deep dives like English, math, science, Arabic, Islamic, and we match that up to the framework. So this is some of the feedback I gave teachers when I observed, and it gets shared with heads of departments. But as you can see, many lessons, especially in phase 3, they use lots of differentiation, they tailored, they had a 5-star objectives and slides, they had GL questions on there. If it was NGRT, they had practice questions, and just track the progress. So giving this data and feedback to the teachers and heads of departments allowed them to firstly get feedback from us as observers, but also to implement any changes that they needed to. And then in terms of 5.2, going back to the framework, again, some of the feedback that we gave teachers was that independent learning, but it was not challenging. So they had to do that, work a little bit more. What we then did for teachers, we put on CPD to match up to what areas that they needed that training in, and gave that support to the teachers in some different subjects. Okay, how we track the data. So we've looked at all of this research, we've looked at who we want to study and who we want to observe, but how do we track? So a simple Excel, we track the data on a tracker and we look at different students. So if you can see down the side, you can see 7D, 8A. So I track the progress and attainment for a few students in year 7, a few students in year 8, and a few students in year 9. And then the data points I'm talking about October. So you can see the students are in line there, the NGRT is looking okay. And then we track the progress right through. By tracking it, we can also see if the students have already gone through their end of year targets. And if that's at data point 2 in February, what next? They need more. So not more tasks, but more stimulation, more progression, and then we can put that into place. And those targets get put on to the advanced learner plan. So just another tracking, you can see the subjects there. We tracked through up to term 2. Now we're at the end of term 3, although our research has been shared and we presented, we can still add to the action research because it's still ongoing. Okay, the results and the impact. So we've carried out action research, but our results and findings show that regular monitoring and working with students and teachers enhance progress outcomes. So all of the strategies I've spoken about, curriculum compacting, individual project-based learning, they all had meaningful impact to the progress and attainment of our students. The students felt supported. So when we got feedback from the students, they did say they felt supported because the teacher was working in depth with them and providing independent opportunities which they thrived on. We also looked at compacting strategies and, you know, whether they worked, but we felt that it did, and it was more engaging and enriching. It provided academic focus. It looked at different targets that the students could have, but certainly fostering connection with peers. They really enjoyed working together in their group works. Gifted students often prefer to work independently. We felt that that was really evident, and the compacting gives them more control. So they are able to work at the targets and at the pace that they like. And we see an increased motivation of our gifted learners. So as researchers, it's always great to reflect. We looked at a model called Kolb's experiential learning model, and we looked at how we can reflect, adapt, make better changes, and how to support students better. So that's just one of the models we use to reflect. And what impact does it have on the school and moving forward? We felt that for the learners, it increased student engagement. We looked at termly targets, so it gives us a better overview into track the attainment and progress. And we looked at the relevant curriculum, so whatever they're studying, how we can increase and sort of change that. We looked at enrichment opportunities, but also the mastery, so they're mastering their curriculum and how we can progress and move them forward. And as with any reflective practitioner, we always look at areas to improve. So our areas to improve, we know that teacher development and use of strategies, we still need to work more on there. We need more engagement with parents. So having the parental support, putting on more workshops, we can do that in the upcoming year. Effective use of TAs as well. So we can utilize TAs when we go into observation. We noted that sometimes the teaching assistants in the classroom or our learning support assistants can work more effectively, and we need to give them more guidance and support in doing that. And everyone needs to know the data. It's not just myself looking at data or my colleague. We now need to share this with our colleagues in the school, so that our next step is going to be in our August CPD week. We will be sharing all of our data with the teachers, and they exactly, they know exactly where the student has started, where the student finished off, and what they need to do for next year. So in terms of our transition and planning, they will have opportunities to fill out the forms that then get passed on to the next teacher. Areas that we still need to implement as a school, we need to revisit curriculum concepts, so we need to keep doing that. And assessment modifications, do we need to look at assessments for our gifted students and look to see how we might modify them? And retrieval practice, so although our students are able to do certain things, they still sort of struggle with retrieval of certain aspects of the curriculum as well. What we need to do as next step, we still need to look at students with high quality teaching and learning. It's really important to still have that and as a school, we want to have a good teaching and beyond good in our classrooms, and challenge for all students and not just gifted. So although this research concentrated on our gifted students, looking beyond that, how we can embed and incorporate challenge within all of our classrooms. So these are some of the things that will go on in terms of my school improvement plan for next year. These are the areas that I will work on as a whole school. And the positives there, we had lovely coffee mornings with our parents, really getting them on board, letting them understand how it works. There might be different challenges at home, there might be more pressure. So really working with our counselling team as well, it was really important that we did that, to work with parents and our heads of departments, looking and reviewing curriculum plans. This has been a regular feature this year, not only for our research, but just to see how we adapt curriculum concepts further. And our next step then is to increase parental involvement, holding sessions in Arabic, for example, so all of our parents are feeling involved and included. And teaching strategies, we still need to embed some more teaching strategies, specifically looking at learning skills and how to triangulate data, looking at different judgments, and also well-being. We look at, we're using a tool this year, Komodo, if any of you are using that in your schools, but how do we triangulate that data? Because that could be showing up something that I might not possibly have access to. So it's working with all colleagues to sort of have a holistic view on data and everything else. I think that's coming up to the end. I've got some references here that we used in our study, and it's important to have references and note down what research that we looked at. Just 2 slides on research. And that's it, I think, Catherine, from my side. I think we have some questions in the chat box, but please feel free to come off mic or write in your chat, and I'll be able to answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neelam. That's such practical, really practical, hands-on, what can we do tomorrow in our own settings. So it was really, really great. Thank you.
Welcome.
We had a question from Shai, who is asking if
Hi,
a child...
sorry, my question was
Hi, Shai, go ahead.
being completed. Is that completed, actually? Yeah, I have a question. Because
Sure.
I have a child, like, can you consider a child is twice exceptional when, for example, at early as 2.5 years old, he's already reading?
Yeah.
And at 3.5, for example, he started counting until billions. Yeah, he also can solve mathematical equations. He can name all the planets, and he's interested with math, science, and English in general, but he doesn't like to write. He doesn't like to do, like, he's not interested to do like fine motor activities.
Yeah.
So can you consider him as gifted or twice exceptional?
Twice exceptional part, thanks Shai. The twice exceptional part would be how the child is regulating. So if he's not liking writing, does he have a tantrum? Does he not like it? Is he getting quite emotional over it because he just doesn't want to do it? In terms of your question about is the child gifted? Well, if they're reading beyond their age level, then certainly there's something happening in their own learning environment, whether at home, that the parents are engaging them with this activity, then definitely, certainly they are. There's not any tools to say that we can test students at this younger age, but they are definitely, something is there. They're definitely gifted in, for example, the maths or science, because you said about the planets. So
Yeah,
when they come...
everything about science, everything.
Yeah.
But he's so interested, like he wants to count the whole time. He wants ruler, he wants the meter stick, everything he wants to measure.
Yeah.
Everything about math and science. Yeah.
So when you say it's 2.5, does he go to nursery or anything like that? Or is this just in the...
he was diagnosed with autism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
definitely quite exceptional then, because obviously if there's a diagnosis, but when he goes to a school setting or whatever setting parents wish to send him in, they have to ensure that the relevant support is there in school. So you can look at the learning environment. Is this setting right for my child or the child in general? How would the school support? So these things are really important at admissions level to talk to. And you want to meet a particular person from the FS or foundation stage, whether it's a foundation stage head or head of FS, because they need to know this. They will make their own observations when the child comes to school, and then it's that partnership from home to school, or whether it's an external centre, that triangulation of partnership will come into play. But it's really important that the school or the environment that the child will go into in the future, that they're aware of this, because they will be able to help and ensure that the child's thriving in those areas.
Ms. Neelam, is there a particular institution who does this assessment or something about to identify about the twice exceptional child?
At an early stage, I don't know if maybe Catherine, you might know, but even in schools now, we just identify them as their ability in the younger ages. So the students we looked at in the foundation stage, it was just that the teachers had picked up really quickly that these children were able to read the books or to do the maths question. But at an early age, we don't do. At our school, maybe in this similar in other schools, we look at Cat 4 from year 3 onwards. So we don't really have anything that's
Because
there are assessments that you can use. So this is called hyperlexia. It's a very common feature with certain types of autism. And it's often one of the first things that are identified for children who have autism. There are lots of different assessments that you can take through an educational psychologist or just a regular psychologist, and pretty much every centre in the UAE will be able to do those for you. The earliest that most psychs would start testing at would be around 3, because it often peters out. Hyperlexia in autism very often peters out. The impact becomes very less apparent after maybe the ages of 4 or 5. They kind of become more typical in terms of their reading capacity.
Thank you.
There's another question here. Any measures for an academically gifted child that can be implemented in the classroom during the teaching process in senior grades? Examples. Just as mentioned, I think it's Nasreen, we just use curriculum compacting to identify the students' needs, their objectives. It just depends on how the student might like to learn. So year 7 students, year 8s, they're very excited. They want to be involved in all projects, for example, and they really get themselves involved. We find that when it gets older into year 9, year 10, they're not really interested. They've got external exams and they really want to just be prepped up for that. So in terms of the teaching process, teachers really should be implemented based on the needs. They need to look at the data. They need to look at how the child is doing. They need to look at, for example, seating plans as well, where the child is best seated in the classroom. And all teachers of that child need to know the information. So not just the maths teacher, because they've stored good in quantitative. All teachers do have access, or they should have access in the school, to the learning plans. As an inclusion team, we have an inclusion register, and our advanced learning plans are linked to the register. So all teachers should have access, and all teachers should be putting that intervention in place. But generally adapting the curriculum, looking at different types of strategies, how they like to work, flipped learning. Do they want to have the content beforehand and they have that before, and they like to have that? A lot of our students in the older classes, teachers allow them to do some sort of student-led teaching. So they'll have that flipped learning, but then come into the classroom and do student-led teaching, particularly in science. They enjoy that. So it just depends on how the student likes to learn. Some students don't. We do have one particular student who doesn't like to interact with anybody. She just wants to be on a Chromebook. She just wants to access the material that way and be very much self-directed and self-focused. But then again, there's other challenges there. So firstly, the teachers need to know the data. They need to look at the child holistically, how the child likes to work, and just put on different things. They might want to trial and test. They might want to have the child lead or the student leading, and the student might really want to be confident enough to sort of dictate their own learning as well.
Thank you so much. That was very clear and complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nasreen. I can't see any other questions,
guys. I don't think we have any other questions. If anyone does have any other questions, Neelam is available on LinkedIn. You can reach out to her, or you can join our WhatsApp group. I will add, we've got a number of WhatsApp groups. I wonder if I can, I can't add it QR code. But you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us on SMS, any way you like, and we can follow up. And hopefully we can have Neelam back again next year.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I think I've done 2 this year, so I'm really happy to be back on.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. We've had over 70 people joining us during the session, so it's been really good. Afaf, we record all of our sessions and they're on our YouTube channel. So if you pop up on the chat, you'll find the link to the YouTube channel and they'll all be there. I'll have it edited and hopefully posted by tomorrow afternoon. And thank you so much, Neelam. You've been amazing, as always.
Thank you everybody for joining. That's just a quick whistle-stop tour to the research. But really, I can't emphasize enough how important research is, and you're doing it anyway. So please feel free to trial something next year in the new academic year, something that might be linked to school improvement or just your own passion in the classrooms or whoever you work with. At the university, actually, Catherine, I'm so happy to see lots of LSAs and learning support assistants from different parts of the school in Dubai. They had come with confidence and sharing their excellent research in inclusive practice as well. So it's such a pleasure to be a part of this community in Dubai. But certainly do reach out if you need to speak to myself or Catherine. I'm on LinkedIn, Neelam Bhatti.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And we will see you all. This is going to be our last forum for this academic year. So we will be back in September with our next forum. Have a wonderful summer, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Ma salama.
Take care. Ma salama. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Salama.